OneNote 726. We saw a demo from Joseph. It's not here. Visual comparison testing. A demo from Zoltan about adding culture picker from Sham. Today is August 2nd. We have demos because we have David. Right?
Yeah, I have a demo for PowerShell static code analysis.
PowerShell, blah, blah, blah. We'll see.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
That is PowerShell.
Yeah, exactly. And
Elasticsearch.
Oh, we have a demo from Plasma. First ever demo. I don't even remember the last time we made a demo, but you did for sure. At least I remember the dark mode. At least. So Elasticsearch from Plasma and demo from Sebastian. Output caching. Then what status topics? You say what you want to talk about. If you have any topics, status. All should one. We didn't do sure on Thursday. Did something happen? Nothing here. Chaco, definitely 26. 6. Improve the workflow function description document. Okay. Missing a space here for consistency. Execute query, log. Missing a space here. No, the whole thing here is without spaces. Okay. So documentation, thank you, Tony. Fix, okay, that's the best change title ever. Fix. No, that's wrong. Yes, that's actually right, but there's a better change here, I think. So the fix here is right. So first, yeah, maybe it's case sensitive, but this one is right because the alias attribute has nothing to do with the alias part. Okay, it's just like logical identifier. That's what it means here. And when it asks for logical identifier, it says the one with the alias part with the value categories. Okay, and this is confusing. Proof is that even the documentation was confused. So here you can say content item ID, colon, and an ID, or you can say alias, colon, and alias, or there are many ways to do that. Okay, there is also maybe a route, something. So what we did is introduce a new property called, maybe, I can't remember, but maybe it was called handle, that would accept these kind of key value pairs. And then I thought we had changed alias to actually be alias, or we have something like this. So I think there is a property here that accepts categories as the alias. And there is a new one, maybe handle, that accepts anything, content item IDs, aliases, routes, like auto route value. So that's, I think we should use the simple ones, like, yeah. Or maybe show the two of them. So this one is better for sure, but I'd like to see the one that I'm worried that is called alias. Or maybe, yeah, or maybe we have an alternate name alias still works, but we have a new, better alternate name that we should use, because otherwise it's confusing. These two alias texts here have nothing to do together. Okay, so if someone can find it. The chat, nobody knows. We've initialized from accessing ISiteService. Okay. Our messages. HTTP background job helper. Background jobs. This is a fake HTTP context because it's a background job. This is just refactoring to move it somewhere else in abstractions. Not sure it should be in abstractions. Not in a module for sure, but in the main Architecture project. Like infrastructure or something like that. Fontawesome update. From 1.1 to 1.2, but the README apparently missed the previous one. Fix select color in dark theme. Okay. Auto-complete email password. I'd like to know what this means, because it's a password, so the browser should do whatever is necessary for password to complete off. Like for instance, what I use is the stored password from the browser. Like I know Edge stores my password on OneDrive or something like that. Or maybe it's just local, I don't know. So when I go back to the same site, it asks me, do you want me to type the password for you? I know it. I say yes. So I'm not sure if it removes that possibility. Autocomplete. There was an issue for that. Read. Explanation.
It should do it by default, but adding the autocomplete off might help for older browsers.
Okay. Disabling autocomplete message with password manager. They say don't use autocomplete off for password.
No, they
That's what they
say don't disable autocomplete. Because
Yeah.
it's something from the browser.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Because it's password, the browser must know that.
I think autocomplete off for password is what banks use, so you can't use your password manager in it.
Oh,
right?
exactly why I would not do that, because banks do that. Usernames are not something. Okay. Well, and that's an old answer. So it's like the world has changed. So maybe this is one of those. Well, maybe it's also a security requirement. So I don't know. I have no opinion. Maybe that's good. Yeah, like if you type a password and then it's an old browser and someone comes and types your username and the password appears, maybe that's a good thing to do. Right? Okay. Here. Hide TablePrefix for SQLite while editing a tenant. I can almost swear that there was the opposite change a week ago. And I mentioned that it was intentional that TablePrefix was not displayed for SQLite because we don't expect people to do multiple tenants in the same SQL database. Because each tenant has its own folder, so you can't even do that. So yeah, so if I go in this file, yeah, I didn't think about this argument last time. So if I go there, search for this one. I look at the history. So this is the recent one. But there was another change by Mike. Maybe just a PR. Maybe it was just a PR that we looked into. Okay, so I'm not commenting more on that. Okay, so this looks good. Yes, we should not be able to change the prefix for a tenant on SQLite. Doesn't make sense. We could technically, but doesn't make sense. Can get shielded by case insensitive name. As long as it's consistent. and Codemirror updates. Okay. Cool. Okay, demos. Who do we have in order? David, please.
Right. So screen sharing. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Lombiq partial analyzer. It's for static code analysis. It uses this library, PowerShell module, which is created by the PowerShell folks themselves, and it does, various static code analysis things that helps with these with these scripts that we may be using for like build automation and stuff like that, CI things. There is actually a Visual Studio module if you want live analysis, but for us, what's relevant is the MS build static code analysis, which I have implemented. It works either through sub-module, you just include the package reference, project reference, or there's a nugget package. And what it does is that when you build the page, and if you have some bad script, then you get nice errors. Indeed, it works even with Visual Studio. However, you have to rebuild. There. And then jumps where the errors are. And also, if you have the, if you use the, what's it called, the Lombiq GitHub Actions that we maintain, then it will be even converted into these GitHub warnings, which is also nice. And oops, that's something else. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, one more thing can be configured using just this is a standard file. In fact, you can, if you want to customize it, you can import that file into the Visual Studio Code extension if needed. So then it will be configured with this as well. And otherwise, it's just used automatically. So if you just include it as a nugget package, then that's all you have, just this one line and git ignore for the timestamp. And that's it, I think.
Okay, thank you. So usually Zoltan will share the link, the package.
Oh yeah, sorry, I will put it in the
you don't have
chat.
to do it. It's just he will do that if he was there.
Yes, I need to follow in his footsteps. Thank you.
Oh, let's share the link first. Thanks, David. Then next. Just now. Your turn. Yeah, Michi, just now. I'm sure you said something.
Yeah. Here it is. Elasticsearch working. I've been working on this since the last 2 weeks. And
thank you. That was the best demo ever.
Yeah.
Good job.
Here, doing a query with Elasticsearch works. Done.
Wait, slow down.
Yeah.
Okay, so you enable the feature because there is a feature Elasticsearch. And you configured it in the app settings file.
Yeah, there's the settings here in the app settings that you can also add in your tenant. Here it's the root scoped app settings. You can have multiple connection types, just like documented in the Elasticsearch documentation. Here, I just use a single node connection pool, which means it will connect only on a single node.
Single URL.
Yeah, single URL.
Okay.
I'm going to show you my Docker deployment, just so that you see. So you can see here you have Kibana, which is the desktop, and you have a single node running on port 9,200. So yeah. And here there's another node, but I don't think it's mapped. So there's just one node running for now. And of course, you need to go into the configurations and the features. And now I regrouped everything into the search category. So you have Lucene and Elasticsearch features, and you enable the Elasticsearch module here. You have also a content picker for Elasticsearch, just like we have for Lucene. There's no worker because we don't need that. And also here, it has some settings in the admin where you can now configure the search settings for the Elasticsearch module. You can decide which fields that you want, but for now, if we compare Lucene, it's quite the same, but they're kept separated because you could use a different field for.
That's perfect. Yeah. And also having the same field means that it's safe, that we are not forgetting anything, or yeah, that's good. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I made it so that it works with the same full text here feature that we had in the content definitions. Yeah, I'm indexing the full text too in Elasticsearch, even if it doesn't make as much sense, but yeah, we do it too. And we have also for the search form here, we can decide which provider that we want, and it's going to work on runtime. So if I'm switching from one to the other, it's going to return results. Need to save this. And it works. And I think I added a video on how to use also query string query for Elasticsearch, because it does quite the same as Lucene for doing things like man, and I pick another word here, Laura. And I'm just allowing this search, and it's going to return a result. Should work too.
That's not the best example, actually.
No, it's not the best. I need to have two content.
So go back on your homepage just to see what content items you have.
Yeah, I need to add some blog post here, probably here.
Oh, you have just one blog?
Yeah, just
search for title. Yeah, search for title. So go back under search and do man or title and man and title. So this should get two results.
Yeah, but here we just display the blog. Oh no, yeah, it should work too.
Yeah.
But
that would be interesting to understand why. Because even if the query string is not parsed correctly, it will look for man or title, the three words. So you should still return the article with the title.
Yeah, well, let's see if we have them. The Acme are probably not indexed. This is why
they are not indexed.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Oh, this is a custom type that you made. Okay. Good.
There it is.
Everything makes sense. And now if you say end, it should not display the titles anymore. It should show nothing. Okay, yeah. Beautiful. That works. And that's because you enabled the query string parsing.
Exactly. And you can switch from losing to Elasticsearch on runtime by just saving this and then searching again.
The indexing settings that you did, are they for both? Like the types?
What you mean? You mean in the content definitions? Yeah. The title,
no.
Here.
I mean, when you added in the index Acme type, you didn't do that for the losing index.
Probably, yeah, too.
That's what I'm asking. So you need to add Acme type, then
it's there.
Rebuild. It's there.
But I will rebuild.
Rebuild, and then you check the option to parse the query. So that works, and all should work. Interesting. Beautiful.
So nice. Yeah, we had a discussion about this with Sultan. I mean, on the PR, because people wanted to be able to switch from one indexing provider to another seamlessly. But one thing that we have here that makes that we can't really do that is the fact that each of our queries are bound to an index here.
Well, this is fine. It's a query, so you point to the index, and I don't see the issue.
Yeah, there's no issue there. It should not be loosely coupled. I mean, even when we call the queries by named queries, we could have changed the method to pass also an index so that we can change. But yeah, normally this is bound to an index because you are indexing specific content types in specific indexes. So this is why they are bound to this.
So what you mean is that if you switch to Lucene here or to Elasticsearch, then it might not work because index doesn't exist in the other provider.
Exactly. We can't just switch from one provider to the other. So this is why I added the settings here per module to define that I want to have Elastic or Lucene, and then the module defines what it wants to do.
This is for the search. This is for the search form. Okay, but for the queries. Yeah, for the queries, how does it know? Should it select the provider and then the index?
Yeah, if you want to switch seamlessly, we will need to have just one type of query. I mean, just have like a Lucene. It's a template.
No, I mean. So today you have two types?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. That's perfect. Yeah, that's good. So this is when you create a query, you say, what is the source of the query? No, that's perfect. There is a SQL query, there is a Lucene query, there is a Elasticsearch query. No, that's perfect. It looked ugly in your queries. What was the thing in the middle?
Oh, yeah. When I did this, it's because I'm missing a template. Yeah, the shape is not there. Okay. Maybe I renamed it, or probably it's just a reload that has fun with
me. Don't touch anything. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. And also I've been working on trying to make Lucene a little more like Elasticsearch on last Friday, just so that, because we are missing some query parsers here and there, and also options that we don't have here with Elastic. Nice. We have the option to store the source data or not. By default, if you do not have the mapping here, I'm going to show the mapping first. Well, here. I'm in Kibana. I'm displaying the mappings because the Elasticsearch has mappings, and when we pass the data from Orchard, it does automatic mapping of the data, and we'll have these things here: Acme, identifier, text field, which is a custom text field that I added on my content type, which is named Acme, and it's going to do two different fields: one that is set as a type text, and one that is keyword that we can use as a technical value, because here it's going to be stored and here it's going to be analyzed. So this is a default behavior of Elasticsearch. because we don't provide the mapping beforehand. We just pass the data and it's going to do an automatic mapping based on the CLR types that it receives. So if it's received text, it's going to do this kind of indexing. And if it's receiving a Boolean, here it's going just to say, here I received a Boolean. I don't need to add another field, which is keyword. Same thing with numeric fields and things like that. Here you can see a long. And yeah, it's not going to add a keyword in that case. So I wanted to replicate this kind of behavior in Lucene, and also the fact that you can store the source of the data or not, because by default, when you do a query here, if I do a query and I remove the source false, for example, it's going to always return also the source fields, which have been passed to Elasticsearch. And this behavior here, you can also disable it globally on Elasticsearch by doing something that I did here by adding the mapping. If I unclick this on the index, going to change the mapping of Elasticsearch, and say the source, I don't want to have it when you index, and it's not going to be passed. But it comes with another question after that. If you don't have the source, then how do I retrieve records or data from Elasticsearch? Then Elasticsearch has the definition for returning fields, which are stored, which is something that I was starting to work on with Lucene to retrieve just specific fields. And also, if you see here in the Lucene indexes, normally we don't store the source data because we don't want to, because it has a lot of data in the Lucene indexes, and also it takes longer to index, so it's pretty experimental. I'm trying to do some things here with that. Maybe it will not be pushed on the first implementation, maybe later, but trying things here. And also trying to implement the same thing with Lucene, where you can pass a field and return just specific fields. As an example here, I think I have it there. Yeah, right there for Elastic. I'm just saying I want to have these two fields and don't provide the source. I'm doing a query, and then I'm returning just these two fields, which is better for than receiving all the source, because then it acts a little bit like GraphQL, where you want to have just a specific field. And it reduces the payload also. So yeah, that's about it.
Thank you.
Probably you will have. Yes.
No, there is a big change to do, which is every time I see Elastic space search, Elasticsearch capital S, you need to change everything to Elasticsearch one word, lowercase, like this.
Yeah, I've seen that afterward. Yeah, it's the right name.
Yeah, everywhere you see Elastic indices, no, like everything, everywhere, 2 words, no, it's 1 word. There is no capital S. And yeah, Elasticsearch. So okay, good. Thank you.
There's questions or something. I mean, probably we'll need to talk about this on next meeting for details.
We'll watch the video and ask questions, but yes, what I saw, it's as easy as a Lucene module, so it should just work.
What do you think about the change in the Lucene module? Because maybe it's going to break things. Probably not trying not to break things, but I mean, we need to at some point mimic what is in Elasticsearch. So trying to match the same behavior here.
What did you break?
Oh yeah, something here I had, which you won't like much, but for the indexing here, I removed something. You can just analyze or store because there was too much option there by default.
No, they were not implemented or they didn't make sense probably.
Yeah, because here it's supposed to be analyzed based on the fact that it's a text field. If you pass text, then yeah, you can analyze it. Then here it's going to just know by CLR type that it's going to index it or analyze it or store it.
Okay.
But then you can also say, yes, I want to specify that it's going to be stored, but it doesn't make sense if you do this on the numeric field, for example. So I wanted to add an option where you could say here some specific content field, you don't have the option to store.
Don't do that. Just provide the option, and if it doesn't make sense, it just doesn't make sense. People should not click it.
Yeah, maybe. Because yeah. Or what do? We just don't do anything with that with our.
Wait, what's the issue here? The numeric field cannot be stored. Why?
Can be stored, but you need to convert its value as a string beforehand. So that doesn't make sense to use a numeric field if it's a text field that you use with a custom editor.
That's fine.
Yeah. Well,
to edit the value is numeric, but in the index is text. There is no issue with that. And when I say it's text, it's formatted text such that the search engine can search it.
Yeah, but here it will behave differently with Elasticsearch and Lucene if we say.
It's okay.
I want to
provide. It doesn't matter.
I'm going to take a look at that. Well, I can talk pretty much more in detail, maybe on Thursday.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
My turn. Share screen. That's it. Wording. Okay, so demo output caching. So what I did yesterday and today is. Oh wait, we don't know the story. So in .NET 7, there is a new feature called output caching. Source. And there is this thing called output caching. Beautiful, it's part of base Pinot. What did they fix? And how it works is it's a middleware, so it works everywhere. And you just to use output cache for the middleware, you do add output cache, and in the add output cache, there are options to say what to cache and how to cache it. So it's all code based. And then you can say, okay, this endpoint is cached, for instance. And vary by query, vary by value. So all the options you want for output caching. Also attributes. And so what I did is, but this is under .NET 7 and it's available already right now in preview, but it's not under .NET 6 and we target .NET 6. So what I did is on NuGet, I published a custom package that copies the code from ASP.NET Core repository, but targets 6.0. Because there is nothing in this feature that is specific, that uses specific things from, or that require at least 7.0. So I made a 6.0 target package, some samples, the same one as the source code, but now you can use it in any .NET 6 application, including Portrait. So I made a thing here, Portrait Core. I will run it. I go to the admin. Features, output, altered output caching, provided spinet output caching. Okay, it's enabled. It's enabled, which means if I go on the site here and I look at that, I do F5 here and I see it doesn't work and I know why. It's beautiful. So it doesn't work and I know why. Log off. F5, and now it works. You see age 52, meaning this is a response from cache because it added the age header, 52 seconds. So it was cached. The cached value is from 52 seconds ago. If I hit F5, it's not cached anymore. F5, now it's cached. And you see it's around 1 minute because the default cache in this case was 1 minute. So after 1 minute, it got a fresh entry. And now I'm getting a new entry. And if I hit F5 again, it's cached. Okay. So this one here should not be cached. It isn't, but if I hit F5 again, now it's cached. It's also faster. So here 5 milliseconds. And if I go on a page that is not cached, 12 milliseconds. Well, this one doesn't work. If I go on this one, 10 milliseconds. Okay, but now if I hit it again, 7 milliseconds, 5, 7, 4, 10. Don't miss. But the benchmarks show that it's much faster because it's cached. So the code is very simple. It's just local code. I won't publish it. I will ask someone to work on that. So the code here is just a very simple module that does what? That in the configure services does add output cache, and in the configure says use output cache. The simplest things you can. But there are lots of options to configure and policies and rules. So here what I'm seeing, so by default, when you use the output cache, it doesn't cache anything. It has the middleware, but it says, no, I'm not caching anything until you tell me to cache something, like a route, an action, path, whatever. And so what I wanted with this module is by default, it should cache everything, like the one we have in Orchard 1. When you enable it, everything is cached, but the admin or authenticated, but the request, the authenticated request or the post request and yours. And this is what the default policy in the caching does. So by calling it this way, add base policy and calling something that does nothing, it will just enable a default policy on everything that will just cache everything. Okay. Only if it's a get, only if it's unauthenticated. That's why while I was on the admin, it didn't work. And when I went back on the front end, it didn't work either because I was still authenticated. But there are options like defining the expiration. You could also define different expiration by route, like /blog might want to be a different, or might not want to be cached, and other pages you might want to cache. You might want to cache authenticated request. You might want to cache authenticated request on the front end and not the admin. So there are lots of things that we might want to allow. We can also evict things. We can also group things to be evicted, like blog might be evicted by itself. So yeah, so that's the thing I wanted to demo. It's working, targeting the .NET 6, and this thing is just referencing the package. Okay. Once we ship targeting .NET 7, which we should also try eventually, we will be able to remove this reference. So this is just experimental, but it works. If we have fixes in .NET 7, we can put them on this package also. So that should work. I'm not publishing it because I think this module should expose the options that we can change in the options here. And there are many things. And actually we have even more, like default expiration. So by default, it's 1 minute. I think it's written in text here. It doesn't show up. Maximum body size to store the size of the cache per tenant. So for instance, 100 megabyte. Above that, it won't cache anything else. We might want also to be able in the admin to define sections. Like I think we should be able to say blog, something like that. And the expiration, like no cache or expires for 5 minutes, and then say everything else will expire for, I don't know, 10 minutes, you see? So we have some things like that in Orchard where we can define routes or custom pages in Orchard 1, I mean, to set different settings. And I think we need that here also. And this can be done with options. So you can do something like and here you have a predicate. So you can say HTTP context request path that starts with tenants. Okay, so here you say /blog. So the idea is that this module on startup will read the options. It could be also in the files, but maybe it's better on the admin. And we'll just add a policy based on the options dynamically. And in this case, starts with and then say .expire and pass a time. Or you could even say no cache to just say don't cache this thing. And maybe also all these options vary by header, vary by query, vary by value. The idea being like by default, it will vary by all the arguments in a query string. But when there is a pejorative word, but you might want to say that you don't want to vary by anything else than a specific property or a specific set of property. So that's the way to do that. It supports locking, which I'm not sure we had that in Orchard 1, but that's super powerful. It's enabled by default. Tagging. Oh, tagging is very important because then you can define sections. Like if you say tag blog, what it means is every page that will start with /blog, even blog post, will have the same blog tag. And then when you want to evict everything, you can then evict everything that is tagged with blog. And this way you can just refresh all your blogging system. Something else we can do then is intercept a request when a content item is served and then tag the current response with the content item ID that was displayed in this page. And then when this content item ID is changed, we can evict from the cache all the pages that render this content item ID. We have that in Orchard 1 also. So to do that, we just look at the shapes. And we already do that for dynamic caching for the shapes, but now we can do that for the output caching also. So that's why tag will be interesting. That might be an option to set in the admin and then support that in the policy. And to do that, I assume that someone will do what is called the custom policy. So the add-based policy, you can implement a class. Well, you can implement the interface like my policy, my output cache policy. And by doing that, this is much better to implement these things. These are called by the middleware, and we will add an instance of my policy there. Okay, so we'll say just new my policy, okay, something like that. And this way, all the logic, all the configuration will be in these things here. Like, do we cache authenticated response or not? Do we cache 200 or errors? Do it cache get or post? Do it cache this URL or not? So everything can be done there. Okay. There is an example in the source code, and I think that's how it should be done. So here we can say new, and then pass the options from Orchard, and this guy will tell on each request if it should cache the response or if it should serve a response from the cache based on all the options we set in them. But I won't do that because I don't have time. So I encourage someone to find an issue, track the work, and implement that. This thing here will be shipped already. This thing here will be shipped already and work as an output cache module to make your website much faster. Also, another request I have is that there is a single store for now, which is memory. So it will store the output cache in memory, which is fine in most cases, and that's also what we have in Orchard 1. I like people to implement different stores. Same thing, there is an interface like disk store. Okay, so implement that. And you can see that we need to be able to remove entries by a tag name, get an entry by a key, and set an entry by a key. That's all. Okay. I don't think this is the best interface to do that. I wanted to do more, but the time made it much simpler than what I wanted. I wanted to pass a custom class here so that per implementation we have more options to do. So right now it's just requires to be able to store a byte array. So this is a system that will give us a byte array containing all the information for the cache entry and return it. But yeah, ideally, so maybe not disk, but because we use it a lot, Redis store, for instance, could be an Elasticsearch store, but Redis store would make sense because that's what we use for all the cloud-based stuff. Could be a blob storage, but that's bad for perf. If it's Redis, then it will work also on Azure Redis. So Redis store would be the best thing to do, and it should be super simple to implement. Just get items tagged, store byte array, and read byte array. So that's the only thing to do. So I would love to see that as another feature of the module, or maybe a different, another feature of the module, but depending on Redis abstractions, maybe, or a different package. So that would be super useful. And this thing should be a package that is available on NuGet. We might do that in .NET itself, but I don't think we'll have time to do it for .NET 7. So the package will be super useful for everyone, not just Orchard. That's it. Questions? Perfect. On time. Great demos. Thanks, everyone. See you on Thursday for the triage.